Boom. What's crack-a-lackin' YouTube? It's your sexy goth bad boy, KINGCOBRAJFS, coming back at you with another video. Smoking a White Owl mango cigarillo for a cheap cigar. It's getting the job done, son. You already know. Here's a restaurant I wouldn't mind trying. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about them. I'll definitely have to do them for a food review when I get my YouTube money. You already know, YouTube, I got $1,000. Make that money. You already know, YouTube, when I get my $1,000 from YouTube, you already know. I might have to squeeze in a couple of restaurant reviews. I've been wanting to try a little horror shop of burgers over there. I've heard they're pretty dank. So apparently, YouTube, the mayor of New York City wants to enforce every bicyclist to have a driver's license of some sort. And would literally enforce... Hold on. Like, the mayor of New York City would pay cops to strongly enforce this if it got passed. And I'm watching a video on it, on this particular subject. One of the YouTubers I subscribed to just recently, her YouTube handle is Millennial Millie, and as somebody who rides a bicycle, I had to watch the video. Because at first I was like, say what? Enforcing bicyclists to have a driver's license for their pedal bike? No. That's some asinine. I'm like, when I seen the mayor of New York City trying to enforce that, I'm like, are you shitting me? When I was a kid, you know, no one even thought twice about it. If you lived in an apartment complex with your parents, and the apartment complex you had happened to have a park adjacent to it that had a bike path, when I was a kid, you could ride bike and nobody would say shit about it, you know? There was no ifs, ands, or buts except watch for traffic and wear a helmet. But now you literally have the mayor of New York City suggesting a law that would make it so people who pedal on bicycles would have to have a driver's license. And not only that, but people in New York City are more obsessed with starting a movement than they are being safe. Because, no, don't get it twisted, okay? Casper, Wyoming, YouTube, is a lot smaller than New York City. But that's no excuse. You know, I've had my chopper bike for years, and I've never hit nobody or nothing with it, so... But literally, we're seeing bicycle riders getting killed in New York City because they gotta move and dodge out of traffic. It's so thick. And it's like, okay, And then they want New York to improve the road conditions for these bicyclists. But I'm like, here's a thought. It's a courtesy from both parties. Both people riding the bicycles and the cars. You know, it's become the new woke thing, like, oh, look how much faster I get to work because I'm not stuck in the red light with all these other cars. And you see people filming themselves riding bicycles through traffic, being careless, dangerous, and reckless. I'm like, and you wonder why people in New York City are getting hit by cars. And like literally there was one week in New York City where this 29-year-old female was hit by a cement truck, and she was like the third person killed on a bicycle that week. And well, I liked the video, so if you want to check it out, you know, subscribe to her channel, that's what's up. But then here's the best part of it. The mayor of New York City wants to enforce all bicyclists to wear a helmet, which I can get down behind that, you know, as a law. But then you see photos of him riding his bike and he's not even wearing a helmet. So he comes off as a typical hypocritical politician tool. Like he's sitting there trying to be hip with the young kids using his hashtags and everything. You see him taking pictures where he's like, look at this person's bike. They have a trailer on the back. See how more efficient it is? Right. Now, what prevents climate change? Human beings do. What happens, YouTube, when you're doing something to prevent climate change by encouraging people to ride more bikes, to bicycle more often instead of driving in their car? What happens then when those bicycles start killing people? Because it's not just bicyclists, YouTube. It's not just bicyclists getting run over and hit by cars. There are bicyclists in New York City who have hit pedestrians because they're going too freaking fast, trying to dodge in and out of traffic. You know, this 5-year-old girl in New York City, she got hit by a bicyclist and it caused a major gash on her forehead. So I'm like, it's not just the drivers running over bicyclists being crazy stupid and weaving in and out of traffic. No, it's more than that. Bicyclists are a part of the problem too. You know, and they have bike lanes for a reason. Now, Casper doesn't have very many of those, but that's not the point, YouTube. Okay, well, and this is a point that Millennial Millie made on that video too. She said, okay, so if we're gonna make people get a driver's license to drive a bicycle that has pedals, what's next? A pedestrian permit? And could you just imagine for 1 second, YouTube, if that shit got enforced? A pedestrian permit, which means you wouldn't be able to walk anywhere unless you had a permit, you know? And this whole issue has become so bad with the bicyclists getting hit by other cars, bicyclists hitting other people, you know, bicyclists weaving in and out of traffic, causing accidents with other cars. And you know, that's the problem with it, YouTube. People are so obsessed with trying to be the next big movement on social media. It's the truth. Aren't you adorable? It's the truth, YouTube. I'm gonna sit over here at this park bench and finish my cigarello. It's the goddamn truth, YouTube. People are so obsessed with being the next big movement on social media. People are more obsessed with becoming famous and being the next big move, the next big thing on social media, the next big movement, you know? It's sad. When you're so obsessed, YouTube, when people are so obsessed with being the next big movement on social media or being famous or being talked about, you know, and that's all they focus on, that creates so many problems in our society. Case in point, all the bicycle accidents in New York City. Now, it's like I said, YouTube. It's like I said. Casper may be a little bit smaller. I'm gonna prop the camera up. Hold up, I got something to prop it up with. I got a beer, it's unopened. It's gonna stay unopened until I get to my destination, but we can use that Coors Banquet can to prop the camera up. There we go, beautiful. Now, I can't speak for everyone necessarily, but Casper's a lot smaller than New York City. That's beside the point. Especially in an area as heavily populated as New York City, people got to be more courteous towards one another. But the mayor of New York City is kind of a dumbass. Instead of focusing on the racist cops he might have in his city or corrupt politicians, he's more obsessed with getting bikes on the road, something he speaks very passionately about. However, he does little to discuss the potential dangers of riding bikes in a bigger city. Now, riding a bicycle, YouTube, riding a bicycle can be loads of fun. You know, you get some mobile independence, but you got to be safe about that, you know. Even though riding a bicycle can be fun, you still got to be safe. You got to watch for cars, wear a helmet, you know. Make sure drivers can see you if you're riding your bike at night. Now, even though Casper is a smaller area, I've come pretty close to getting hit by a couple of cars just because we have some dumbass drivers in this town. We do. I mean, dumbass drivers are everywhere, but it's like, well, and I end up saying to myself, good thing I'm paying attention because the person driving that damn car ain't. Here's the thing of it, YouTube. Here's the thing of it, okay? Here's the thing of it, though, YouTube, in all sincerity. If you're coming this close to hitting people on a bike, then maybe you shouldn't be driving. Here's a thought. On the same note, bicyclists shouldn't be weaving in and out of traffic just to show off for social media. I mean, I get why people ride bicycle when they're adults because cars are expensive. Some people are worried about cutting down on their carbon footprint. But what happens when the bikes that you're promoting end up running over people and killing them? You know, so you're still affecting your carbon footprint in a negative way. People who could be preventing it, you know. I'm just saying, YouTube, you gotta be smart about that shit. Pardon my French, but you do. You know, all it takes is for one asshole to ruin it for everybody. It's the truth, you know. And when you're seeing a bunch of people in New York City being reckless with their bikes, weaving in and out of traffic to avoid stoplights, showing off for YouTube because they're so woke, you know. Like, the movement itself has a lot of good things going for it. It gets people to exercise, ride the bicycle more, and it reduces the carbon footprint. So the movement itself already has a good base to it. We just got to be smarter about it, that's all. Oh, especially if you live in a bigger city, YouTube. I mean, really. More cars, more people. You know, it's a courtesy that has to come from both sides. Both the people riding bicycles, the pedestrians, and the traffic. You got three different sides of this argument. And if everyone did their part to make it a little bit safer, then we wouldn't have these issues. But the deaths associated, the people dying associated with bicycle-related accidents has gotten so bad it's become a political issue. To quote Gomez Adams from the Addams Family, "Has the planet gone mad?" I see kids eating Tide Pods for a YouTube video, like, taking the deodorant spray and giving themselves a nitrous burn from the can just to say they did it, like doing stupid like that, you know. And then we had chalk carving, which you're taking the chalk and you're scraping it against the microphone as close as you can to make an ASMR sound. I get that. But then they took things way too far and started eating it. There's literally people on Instagram eating chalk and calling it chalk carving ASMR. And then to top it all off, you got these idiots and their bicycles giving bicyclists a bad name, endangering the lives of themselves and others just to prove a point. And I'm like, But maybe it's just me, YouTube, but I think, like I said, people are so obsessed with being the next big movement on social media. And they're so obsessed with it, they're willing to endanger their lives and the lives of others just to prove, hey, look at me, you know. And that's not right. Can we just stop trying to be the next biggest movement on social media and just enjoy social media for what it is? I mean, bullying on social media, that's a whole nother issue in itself, but between the bullying and the overly PC crybabies, and then you got people who just don't give a fudge. We can't just use social media to make connections and connect with people all over the world. We gotta hype it up. We gotta be like, oh, we gotta be the next big movement. No, you don't. No, you don't. Anyways, tubes, if you ride a bicycle, be safe, be smart when you ride. If you like these kinds of rants, subscribe to the KingCobrajFS channel, and I'll catch you cool cobras later.